Welcome back to the Weight of Coaching podcast, where we deep dive into the art and science of weightlifting, athletic development, and performance. I'm your host, Jordan Browne, and today we've got a real special guest, Wil Fleming. How are you doing, Wil?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jordan.
Of course. So, for those who might not know you, could you give us a quick little brief of who you are?
Yeah. So primarily, I'm a weightlifting coach, but I've done all the different stuff. I've did a lot of the strength and conditioning for athletic performance for a long time. Had a big gym. We did in the U.S. we had 125 Division I athletes. They help get scholarships over the course of 10 years, plus probably another 150 to 200 athletes at like other levels, Division 2, 3, or NAIA, and then coached athletes in all the major sports, baseball, soccer, football, NBA. So coach professional athletes and everything. And then in maybe 2012, I started working with some weightlifters, and they were just like kids that were washing out of their sport. They were too small to play soccer, or maybe just were not skilled enough to play other sports, or some played at really small high schools, so they were not going to get a scholarship. Just started helping them find Olympic weightlifting as a sport, as an avenue for them. Maybe they had some good skill in the weight room and would pick them out. And started a team back in 2012, and then that's grown. In 2018, I started just focusing on weightlifting. I sold my gym, and with that goes like non-competes where you can't work with athletes. So I was just working with weightlifters, which was awesome. I could really focus on that, and developed my team more, and was able to coach in the 2024 Olympics as one of the assistant coaches for Team USA. And I helped coach Mary Tyson Lappin to the Olympics, and just been able to, one of the only American coaches I've ever coached in the European Championships multiple times. Coached in 2024 and 2025 at Euros. And have had medalists at Europeans, at Pan Americans, at Worlds. So yeah, just have a pretty decent level of experience with weightlifting, and at all levels. Still coach like little. Yesterday in the gym, I had 2 Olympians, and I had somebody I was just like teaching for the first. Maybe they've been here for 2 weeks. He's 11 years old. So just run the gamut of that. And then over the last year and a half, I've been getting my master's in sports psychology, and really diving into that side of things, and see that's one of the areas I want to like focus what I'm doing, is both working with my athletes on their mental approach to competing, to training, all that kind of stuff, but also being able to cast a wider net and help a bunch of athletes, a lot of weightlifters, because I do recognize that weightlifting is this sport with a lot of confrontation internally with this like external object. And so I think that it's super important to be dialed in on that side of things. So yeah, weightlifting coach, training to be a sports psychologist, a sports psychology consultant. And but yeah, I love all that stuff. I love weightlifting. I love the athletic performance. I love the sports side. This is the exact podcast I should be on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for showing up. So what was the biggest thing that made you feel like you needed to go back to school and get your master's?
Well, I always wanted to get my master's. Just have always wanted to have a master's. I love learning. I love like being a learner. As a coach, you'll get in this thing, and really good coaches, they just take learning on themselves. And I would tell a lot of people that like, you don't have to go to school for that, right? Like maybe school might not even be the right course of action for whatever. You would learn more if you grab like transfer of training and science and practice of, strength and conditioning, and all these different like texts that are out there that, everybody wants to read, and like trying to understand super training and read the Russian manuals and all that kind of stuff. And you would probably get a really good education. Then you should go to a Greg Everett seminar, and you should like learn weightlifting. So I think there's a certain level of real knowledge you have to have. And then you have to have continuing education, and just keep going and keep learning from people and whatnot. But I do think that there's not a real education is super important too in certain areas. So I always wanted to get, I always wanted to be a learner. I always wanted to continue being a learner. And then I just wanted to formalize it. If it came to like strength conditioning, coaching and stuff like that, I did not feel like um, my learned experience, having done this for 25 years or something. Well, that'd be an exaggeration. 20 years, 27 years in weightlifting. I started lifting when I was like 15. And, 20 years as like a coach. Going to school to get a master's in strength conditioning would not be beneficial to me, right? But in a topic like sports psychology, where I don't really have a huge background, I have a huge interest in it. I wanted to formalize that education. So that was one part. But then the other thing is, I was a weightlifter before I was a weightlifting coach, right? I started lifting when I was 15, and I, won junior nationals. I was a resident at the U.S. Olympic Training Center, and so like I had this background in competition, and I always know. So I feel like one thing is I always have had a really keen awareness of the stressors that are in weightlifting. In between weightlifting, I was also a hammer thrower, and I went to the Olympic trials in 2008. And I was in just incredible shape. I was throwing really far. Now, the way track works, you have to have like an A standard to make it. I was not going to ever get that A standard. That was really high at the time. It was like over 80 meters in the hammer, and my PR was around 70 meters. But I was training really well, and I thought I was going to have a huge breakthrough and throw 74 to 75. I was training really, really well leading into that trials. I had a new coach, and we were just humming, and I was ready to really throw. And I remember getting into that meet, and I had this sensation for the first time in my life where my legs were tingly, my mind was foggy. Like I did not know what that was, like at all. And I like, just couldn't, I warmed up pretty well, but then once the competition started, it felt like, just everything was just malfunctioning. And I realized now, I was having, performance anxiety, right? And it was like the manifestation of this adrenaline dump in my body, and I didn't know what to do with it, and all this kind of stuff. And so when I got back into competing for weightlifting, I started seeing a sports psychologist because I didn't want to have that happen to me. And so I realized early on that there was a lot of importance to that. And that guy was really good. He had a real clear cut process in terms of how to get there and get ready for a competition and all that kind of stuff. And I still use some of that stuff with my athletes. Um, and but I also ran into I had two athletes trying to qualify for the Olympic Games last time, and I realized that the hardest thing for each of them was not the physical. Both of them were like right in the mix, like physically, right? Top, you had to be top 10 in the world. Both were ready for that. Both were capable of that. One was, third, fourth, fifth in the world kind of levels, and the other was top 10, like 8 or 9 or something like that. And I'd seen them do that in training multiple times, but on competition day, it wouldn't come together. And it was just like, it was just a real struggle at competition time. And then with my other athlete, getting through competition, they would show up every time, but getting through training, just like the slog of training and the self-doubt and all that kind of stuff, was really, really a struggle. So I kind of realized like, hey, I have these elite athletes. I mean, some of the 10 best in the world in weightlifting, and they're struggling not with the programming, right? They're also I came to a realization. This was confirmed when I went to the Olympic Games, that like there's a lot of ways to get people good at weightlifting. Like I think I'm a little bit familiar with how you program, right? And it's way, I mean, honestly, dude, I would say that your programming is way more detailed than mine, like, and very good. And I like, I'm envious of the stuff you do in your program. Like, man, that's so thoughtful. That's really good. And mine's a little more laissez-faire. And it's like, okay, we're going to, I use like terms like heavy, moderate, and light. And I'm like, there's big ranges and, all this kind of stuff. And you're much more particular. And so when I was at the Olympics, I'm kind of in this middle zone. I got another coach at the Olympics who's just, this rep, and they're thinking 2 years out, and like they'll say, oh, I knew that you would hit this at the Olympics 9 months ago or whatever. And it's like, what? And then like we had like Steve and Olivia, And they're just like, Olivia's never had a written program. Nothing, there's nothing, right? She just shows up and Steve's like, you're doing this today. You're doing this today, right? Take tomorrow off. Like it was just, so there's a bunch of ways to get people good in weightlifting. Now there's technical stuff you got to do. There's stuff you got to do in training, but there's a bunch of ways to deliver that and make that effective and all that kind of stuff. But this is confirmed at the Olympics. When I was there, all of the athletes were just feeling this heat, like, oh my gosh, this is it, right? Like, and it sometimes people have bad days and just break down and struggling with all these ideas of identity and resilience and all this kind of stuff. And so in the lead up to the 2024 Olympics, like in qualification, I knew that this is something I wanted to do because I started seeing it. Like I realized that was what would make or break people, particularly at the elite level. And then it was confirmed at the Olympic Games. Now, the other thing that's been confirmed to me is that like everybody needs it. Everybody, a masters lifter yesterday was talking to me about like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not winning medals and I'm not getting paid to lift. Why am I training so hard? And, the conversation I had was, hey, that doesn't sound like you, right? There's ego orientation. There's this idea of ego orientation and task orientation. And like nobody does a good job for long with this ego orientation. Ego orientation is external validation, medals, championships, beating people, like comparing yourself to others. Whereas task orientation is mastery and improvement and comparing yourself to your previous best and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, and it's very internally motivating. And yes, there's a place for task or ego orientation. Like, hey, I want to go win. I want to like have this result. But you can't sustain yourself with that. So as she's a master's level lifter. She's super good. She's medaled at U.S. senior nationals and stuff like that. But she's super good. But she's worried about stuff that really is distracting her from that. So that master's level lifters have to have that. Youth lifters have to have it, right? They have a competition and they need to have imagery and visualization because they don't know what it's going to feel like going on a national stage for the first time where they're on an elevated platform and there's more people watching them. And maybe there's a lift. They got the youth nationals because they're good, but there's a lift that has a little pressure on it to win. And maybe they've played baseball and they've like been up to bat when they need to hit one and like have a big hit to help their team, but maybe they never have. So in that sense, like all of our athletes need some of that coaching. It's not just for athletes who have performance anxiety like me at the 2008 Olympic trials. It's for, like you don't just, the only people who squat, you don't just make people squat because they have weak legs. Everybody needs to squat, right? Like everybody needs it for their performance. You don't just like, do weight. Performance psychology is for anyone who wants to perform. It's just a way to help your performance elevate. Just like strength and conditioning is good for basketball players, not just shooting baskets. And weightlifters can't just lift weights. You have to think about all those pieces. So it's not just because I broke down 2008 at the Olympic trials that you need performance psychology. You need sports psychology, and you need this like performance mindset. If you just want to perform, right? You want to be better, right? You're gonna see results in some way.
Yeah, I have these conversations with my athletes all the time where we focus heavily on the mental aspect of weightlifting because everyone has such different interactions with it. So for myself, it's like training. I love competing in training because that was kind of where I found myself, and I love getting to test myself and have like that ego of like I'm gonna try and beat you, and then if I don't, like it's like oh whatever, like I can relax off that. But then when I get to competition, I've never had like these good experiences coming from my upbringing in weightlifting, where it was like oh you have to do these like 99% openers and stuff like that, where I'd always go 2 for 6, and there'd be like this shame and disappointment. So it's like I get to competition and I start like throwing up in my mouth and I have all this competition anxiety. But in training, when I have similar pressures or I try and put those pressures on myself, there's nothing. And
Yeah.
it's this crazy like battle of changing the environment creates such a difference in how I view the challenge.
Yeah.
And like that's what I'm working through is like trying to figure that out. And then any of my athletes, we have all of these
Yeah.
different
That
ways
doesn't
things get
manifest
viewed.
itself the same way. That's kind of the interesting thing where like, um, you you do have to like see what each person's experience is and have tools for all sorts of different items, right? That would be one, right? Where change the environment, change the stakes, you feel this huge thing, right? So it's almost how do we get that adrenaline to go to you because the little stakes in competition don't do, or in training don't do it, right? How do we get you kind of um, blunted versus the adrenaline? Like, how does your body get used to it? Yeah, that'd be an interesting one to kind of dig into and figure out. What have you tried?
I've tried competing against people, like in training. I've
Yep.
tried to like get more attention on myself. I've tried, but because I'm a coach, it's hard to go to competitions nearly as much because you're always
Yes.
coaching,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to coach all day or do
Yeah. No.
coach
No. Yeah.
evaluation stuff like that, and then compete. Uh, so it's just hard to get actual
Yeah. You
competition
don't have enough.
experience.
You haven't gotten enough experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I would say you
since
just got to
my
go do low stakes stuff. Just go do low
yeah,
stakes competitions and do it frequently, right? Where it's just like constant. You know.
and since like my knee injury when I got surgery, it's like I haven't had that much actual competition experience because it's just like I became a coach and now I don't have time to
I
because I'm
know.
like, oh, I should go compete and that'll be the easy answer,
Yeah.
but it
Well, that's
makes it a
another
little
big thing
tougher.
is I feel like if you get to a certain point, like with coaching, you just can't compete. You know what I mean? You're like, it just doesn't have. I mean, I just I didn't even mean to. I just retired from competing in weightlifting because I just started coaching so much. I was like, well, there's no time for me to lift. You know, like so. Yeah,
Mine's just like the natural. As soon as I can leave like local meets, I'm like, okay, I only got like 3 to 4 people at
then you can do it.
nationals. I
Yeah,
can compete still,
yeah.
but at local meets when it's like
Local
eight
meets, no,
people, I'm
no
like,
chance. No.
no shot. Um, what have you found to be some big learning lessons that you've been taking from school?
Um, you know, there's kind of my book is a little bit framed in this way is there's just all these things that like compound on each other. And one thing I think about weightlifting, this is maybe the first thing, it's the first chapter in the book, um, and so it comes to mind really quickly, is like athletic identity is a big concept in sports psychology. And athletic identity is the degree to which you identify with like being with the role of athlete. And it can be really good. The book Atomic Habits is a really cool book. And they say like if you want to be good at something, think about all the things someone good at that thing is and do those things, right? So you'd say if I want to be a good weightlifter, what does a great weightlifter do? Well, they focus on their training, they focus on their nutrition, they focus on their recovery, they're in training, they are dialed into each rep. They don't think about, they're not 12 weeks in the future, all these different things, right? And then do those things one at a time. And as you do that, that's identity. You're absorbing the identity. You've decided what's the identity of a good weightlifter look like, and now I'm going to do those things. But identity can also be like really troublesome if you identify too much with something, particularly if you have like an injury or a bad competition. Um, identity is then, um, you know, identity can then kind of bring you down where you feel as if um, you're a failure because you had a bad competition. And what are people going to view you like? How are people going to view you online? And bring in social media, and now you have like a whole extra layer to that, because a lot of people, this is semi joking but kind of serious. A lot of weightlifters have their weight class in their bio, Like that's how much they identify with weightlifting, that they want to have
Or their
like
name.
yeah, their name, right? It's like Jordan Browne 96, right? And it's like, what if you don't make 96, Jordan? Like what if you miss weight? Like what's your identity? What if you go up? You got to lift at 110 now or whatever. It's like so identity is good in when it leads you to make these good decisions. I remember identifying so much with the role of like athlete in college that sometimes I would like, it would make me like be like, my friends are going to go out to the bars. I was like, hey, I can't. Like I'm an athlete. I got to stay home because we got to, we got to meet and all this kind of stuff. I got to get to bed early. I can't go out drinking, all that kind of stuff. It helps you make good decisions, right? But a lot of times identity can end up weighing on you when you think about others' expectations, or you have like an injury or a tweak. I think almost every weightlifter can picture this. I know when I'm training really hard and I really am like keyed in on my identity of weightlifting, if I had a tweak, like my back would flare up and I couldn't lift, I would be so mad. I would be in the worst mood for like 2 days, and you're like, just don't take it out on anybody else. But I'm so mad. Like, why did that happen? Whatever. That's identity. That's like you identifying with this, and then it's taken from you, and it's like a crisis. So that's just a concept that people kind of don't understand. And I think the key then, my coaching is like have a balanced identity. And there's in the book, we have like these, one of the things about the book that I'm really proud of is I'm going to tell you about the topic, but then I'm going to give you ways to work on it. Right. So I'll call it, it'll be like a handbook. And I expect that it's going to be in your gym bag and you're going to like pull it out and you might fill out a thing and you might go, wait, what was said about this? Okay. This is what I'm feeling right now. So there's a check, like an identity check, like, when was the last time you took a week off without like worrying about it, right? Like if you can't take a week off from training 19 weeks from a competition and not worry about it, like you might have like a maladaptive identity problem with weightlifting, right? Because who cares? 19 weeks away from nationals, take a week off, guilt free. I had a conversation with a weightlifter about that recently. They were like, hey, I'm feeling a little demotivated. And like I'm kind of, just really demotivated right now. And I had a bad day lifting. And I said, why don't you take next week off? Right. And they're like, well, I'm going on vacation. I don't want to miss anything. And I was like, no, that's the whole point. Like you're on vacation. Let vacation be vacation. Stuff like that. So, that's just like a top kind of top of mind thing, like you want to have a varied identity who does the adaptive parts of having athletic identity, makes you make good choices, makes you, focus during training. But the maladaptive part is, what do I post because I had a bad meet? What does it matter? Like, how do you feel about your meet? Like, what happened? What are people going to think if I, don't, I didn't make that team? What do you think? What do you think of yourself? This was maybe a conversation Mary and I had at the Olympics was, like you have this training and like you're kind of getting into like realization where it's like, okay, like all of these leading indicators have indicated now we're going to turn all this training into big like competition lifts. And it just didn't happen. We were in Paris and it was like about the time that these lifts are going to happen and it just wasn't happening. And I would say like, physiologically it was fatigue. Like we had competed like 9 times in the quad and all the girls who beat her competed at most twice in the quad, like Lee Wen, Emily Campbell, Park Hae-jong, and Liseth Aovi had competed heavy twice, right? Maybe. And we had competed like 8, 9 times as heavy as possible. So like that was what was happening physiologically, but it just wasn't that corner wasn't turning where we were just staying flat, right? It was like, oh man, we're really good at 115 to 120 and 155 to 160, and we're just not like breaking through. And she was real worried. She's like, I remember exactly where we were. People think I'm gonna medal, and I don't know if I can medal. Like I don't think I can medal. We just talked about identity as um, like she earned a new identity of Olympian, right? And she gets to keep that no matter what. And so her identity is really safe, right? And people, we talked even about, conceptualizing your identity is that what did American Olympians, I'm going to use, what did Cheryl Hayworth place in the 2004 Olympics? I don't know. What did Carissa Gump place in 2008 Olympics? I don't know. What did Jenny Arthur place in 2016? I don't know. What did Morgan King place? I don't know. What did Jordan Dela Cruz place this time? I don't know. Unless you medal, you're just an Olympian. Like you've earned that title and you get to keep it. Nobody cares. Like you can place last at the Olympics, you're still an Olympian, right? Like Olympics are kind of weird because you can have, medalist or Olympian. There's not like less Olympian. There's not like and almost medalist isn't even a title. It's like medalist or Olympian. So there's a little dichotomy there. But she earned that title and she should be comfortable with that title. And you don't have to worry about what other people are thinking because you have the receipts of it. But you both have to own and be confident in your identity, but you can't be so wrapped up that it becomes like maladaptive.
How do you? So we could have both ends of the spectrum. So you have the one end where you under-identify with weightlifting, so you're not doing those tasks, and then you have the over-identification. How do you, or what are some tools that you use to bring both of those extreme edges uh, to that more healthy identification?
Yeah, I mean, if you under identify as you're and you're competing in weightlifting, you're probably just a super talented person, right? Is like just freak and like really strong or something like that. Because I do think that weightlifting tends to have over identification. So you just challenge that identity, like in terms of um, there's like I would ask those questions, those self identity checks, and then like encourage them to do those sorts of things so that they can like move into a healthier realm where it's like take time off, identify what you enjoy outside of weightlifting, and then lean into those things too. One of my lifters who really identifies as a weightlifter was a teacher previously before like kind of like really diving into weightlifting, and they were just feeling like there's a little bit of an injury right now and some different things. I said let's lean into that teacher identity because we all have like multiple things that we like and like to do and stuff like that. So lean into that piece so you have like a little more well-rounded thing. If they're under identifying with weightlifting, you might be fine if they have no goals, right? Like if they just want to go to a couple local competitions and they like being a part of the club because it's their social piece or something like that, that's fine. If they want to achieve in weightlifting, yeah, we probably need to let's amp that up and let's do the atomic habits thing. Like think about all the things that a really successful weightlifter would do. Which ones are you doing? You're showing up to training and that's it. Okay, let's add one more, right? Let's see if we can add another one because you want to be a little more successful in weightlifting. So let's add another piece. And they would choose to eat 3 healthy meals every day or something like that. So you might lean into some of those habits that they would self-identify as a successful weightlifter. A lot of this is certainly self-driven. Like make them identify what habits they should do, or if they're over-identify with weightlifting, make them figure out what else they enjoy and lean into those things, or that kind of stuff.
Something that I try and make sure all my athletes have, especially the closer we get to competition, is I'll try and make them start doing their hobbies more. Or if
Yeah.
they don't have hobbies, I'll be like, your homework, your training task is to go find a hobby. Where I need you to have this other thing where like it could be board games or going for taco, like whatever that is, and it's like I need you to have these things outside of weightlifting
Yeah.
as we get closer, because it's almost like as you get closer, the identification starts to
Oh, all
get
you want
bigger
to do
and
is think about
bigger,
weightlifting. Yeah. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like you put all this pressure on, or you get to peaking, and it's like everybody knows what happens during taper. Is like it can be a wild ride,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and
like
you're
I
like,
forgot. Oh, it's 10 days out. I don't know how to snatch anymore.
yep, this is my last heavy snatch. I have to do well today, otherwise the competition's over. And you're like, was the competition over last time you had a bad heavy day
Yeah,
training? You're like, no.
exactly.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
let's relax.
Yeah.
But I try and make sure they have these other things as we get closer. And I'm like, we're actually going to take training off, and you're going to go get yourself a new book and
That's
like go
super
read
smart.
at home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need you to just do the other thing instead of like trying to force weightlifting to be that thing for you. Or people will try and create weightlifting to be this all-encompassing hobby where it's
Hmm.
like, this is where I get all of my social interaction,
Yeah.
or this is where I get everything that makes me me. And I'm like, okay, we need to find people outside of weightlifting. We need to find these
Yeah.
other things where I'm like,
That's
go.
awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is a lot of people just jump into the gym culture, and it's like, what are their social relationships? Oh, it's the weightlifters. Hey, we're gonna have a cookout. It's the weightlifters. It's like, everything, and that's awesome. That makes your gym super strong and exciting. But you hope, for their sake, your athletes, you need to make sure that, hey, there's other pieces. Like, I hope you have other friends. We need you to have other friends and other hobbies. Parents are, parent of three boys, and that's a really similar kind of thing for your as a parent is like, let's say, even if your kids start doing sports, like your friends are the parents of the other kids, and you're taking your kids here, and you identify as a parent, and you do this and this and this, and really healthy parents have other hobbies, right? They, like, there's a rise of, moms love coloring books or puzzles or whatever, right? And it's like, so you can just have this hobby that you can go do and like turn your mind off, and it's not anywhere in parenting or weightlifting or whatever.
Are you saying parents aren't supposed to put all of their pressure and identity on their kids' sports?
Maybe
Oh,
potentially, yeah.
shoot. That's what it looks like in the States, at least.
Oh my gosh, dude. I was on Instagram this morning, and it's like, I kind of don't want to see another video of your kid playing sports. Like, I'm good. I promise. I'm good. Like, I get it. I love watching my kids like play sport. I love like seeing them have fun. I love coaching them, right? I think it's fun to like spend time with them. And I think sports teach a lot of lessons, but like, man, I turn on Instagram. It's like, so and so had 3 hits tonight. Cool, right? Like, so and so scored 3 goals. If it seems like every kid in the world is the best at sports, so I don't know how we're gonna pick later.
I don't know who's going to the Olympics at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
Jeez. Um, so moving from this first chapter in your book, or this over identification or identity situation, what are some of the other kind of categories that you tend to go into for coaching weightlifting or
yeah.
athletes?
Performance routines is really huge. I think that's one of the first 2 or 3 chapters. Is thinking about like pre-performance routines. I think that is like a way to control chaos. And pre-performance routines will then have a bunch of stuff in it. Could have imagery, self-talk, all that kind of stuff. But having a pre-performance routine is like absolutely paramount, because otherwise, every lift could feel different, and that goes. I think about it all the way back to like, I always would picture. This is personally, if I'm going to take a lift, even in training, when I stand up to take a lift, that was when my name was called, right? Like out on the platform. So I always like, that was picture, name was called, and then I'm gonna chalk my hands. I'm gonna pull up my knee sleeves. Then I'm gonna chalk my hands, tighten my wrist straps, take a deep breath, say something affirming to myself. I always call it like a power statement. I would say, get big, right? And then, then I go approach the bar with my technical cue, and the technical cue is super simple. It would be chest up or flat feet or something like that. And so just designing a pre-performance routine is really huge. And then just kind of knowing it inside and out. It doesn't have to become superstitious if you like pull your knee sleeve up after you chalk your hands, or you got to readjust it. Like, that shouldn't freak you out. We don't want superstition, but we do want routine, because routine allows you to get in the same place and then you execute, right? So I would, and then, as kind of building off of that, pre-performance routines then can lead to stuff like imagery, which, you might call visualization, but technically you want to call it imagery, because you want to have this robust picture of everything. we want to think about um, the sounds that would be happening. Like if it's a big gym lift, you got like a big heavy session in the gym on Friday and you're worried about, like, you're kind of nervous about it. You want to picture the sounds of the gym because you know where the speakers are. And maybe if you're in a commercial gym, you hear other plates clanking because people are squatting with metal, or benching or something like that. And then you feel the wood under your feet. You can feel the grip of the bar. Like, oh, this is I'm lifting on a Usaka, so this is how it feels. Whatever. You do that whole picture, and that whole picture is going to lead you into that. So you can put imagery in that pre-performance routine. And then self-talk too, right? So, pre-performance routine is its own thing, but it should probably include imagery. It'll include self-talk. And self-talk to me is just, I definitely think it needs to be positive, and I'm very much on evaluating things in the positive light, like not what you did bad, but what can you learn from. Every session has a like and a learn, and if you have a like and a learn, then you have improvement too. So in self-talk, we might have those cues. I like to build a cue that has a power word, like strong or tight, or, just as a feeling kind of thing. And then one technical thing to me is key when you go execute the lift. You can talk about technique in between, but usually I try to keep it pretty minimal. And so, yeah, I think that like pre-performance routines are huge. Then you do start talking about other pieces of that self-talk, and you talk about imagery that can all kind of be wrapped into that.
I remember, so NCCP, like our Canadian coaching system, we have to take these non-sport specific modules to get our national level. So we have to take a psychology module.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, and so it's just like a basic like image or yeah imagery, and we went through it, and it was like close your eyes, imagine you're picking up a ball, and then she's like, "What kind of ball did you pick up?" And then what does it feel like? And like she went through these things, and then the last question she asked was like, "What does it taste like?" Meaning like what do you taste in your
Yeah.
mouth while you're competing?
Yes. Yeah.
But then all of our heads went to
You're like,
like,
I don't know
what
what a
is
soccer ball tastes like.
I knew exactly what a one of those red rubber dodgeballs feel
Yeah.
tastes
Yeah.
like because
Disgusting.
you've
You
definitely
look,
licked it by
yeah. You look.
accident.
Yeah. That's funny.
I think it was by accident when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure anymore. Where it's like we went through this thing and we wanted to create this whole full encompassing like
Yeah.
all of our senses
Super
of like
robust. There was really cool thing at the Olympics. Um, they had in the village that they had this huge kind of fitness area for all the athletes to train in. There's a weightlifting training hall, but there's a fitness area, and then above it they I think they just called it the mindfulness zone. There's a room that's pretty dark. These giant bean bags, and then they had a bunch of Oculus headsets, and it would take you through like a whole visualization. You'd have to pick your country and your sport, and then there would like this great voice is like Josh Brolin was like, um, imagine yourself on the stage, and all this, and it was really cool. So I think that that's a huge area for people to get really good at, particularly if you have anxiety, is potentially performance anxiety, or you're worried about something. Just that can mental reps, imagery, 100% like has been shown that to like do the same thing physical. Like there is like some of the same signaling and all that kind of stuff, so technically that happens. But if we're talking just purely psychologically, you can, if you take mental reps, you're just making your body used to that kind of what's going on, and what it's going to feel like when it's on the platform. And I even tell people like with imagery, picture it perfect. Picture it where you make a mistake, where it's like heavy off the floor and your chest drops and you have to like kind of pull back, and maybe you hop forward and double bounce it, and then you stand up. Like it's not always going to be perfect. So you got to be able to picture it bad. You got to be able to picture it kind of good. You got to have like one mistake. You got to have to picture fighting for it because the judge is slow hitting a down signal or whatever. All that kind of stuff.
yeah I've told my athletes to do this with like you just missed your last attempt or missed your opener, and I'll focus specifically on like those non like visual senses where
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
And I'll try and get them into that kind of sensory overload
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
like, what is your self-talk saying to you right now? Like, what is your voice saying? What is your stomach doing? What are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
And then I'll work on like trying to get them to come off of that, like come down and be like, okay, we need to practice getting you in this exact feeling, this exact anxiety state,
Mm-hmm.
and then learning to bring us down, because it's easy to be like, okay, in training we'll bring you down, but it's like how many reps or how much practice do you get in that competition experience of like I just missed my opener versus uh in training it's so much
Yeah.
less pressure.
So much less pressure. Yeah. There's I think resilience, like training resilience, is really important, and training after misses is super important because yes, everybody. If you haven't missed a lift in 9 competitions or something like that, like I bet weightlifting feels pretty cool, right? And like you're doing okay, but like a lot of people have a missed opener. What do you do, right? Or um, a missed second attempt on a heavy clean, and you got to come back for your third. What do you do? How do you do it, right? I like kind of put together in this like this idea like a fix it framework. And number one is like it's a fix it framework because you can fix it. You're in control. Like there's this locus of control. I can handle it and I'll do it. But like kind of first is acknowledge the error, right? What happened, right? Not like, oh, that didn't happen. What happened? Okay. It felt heavy off the floor and I got pulled forward. Okay. So you acknowledged it, and what are you going to do to fix it? Well, I'm going to like get tighter and keep my chest up. Okay, cool. And then like stop, right? And then you stop, like you've acknowledged it, and then stop it. So that can be so through some breathing, right? Like I'm going to take a deep breath, and that means everything's in the past. And then you need to like, or Mary like will pinch her legs, just like bring herself into the moment. You can snap, you can tap your palm, whatever, right? Just there's some physical thing you got to do to like stop that thing, and then you cue it the thing that you're going to fix, right? It's now it's chest up, get tight, chest up, whatever, and now you're into your next thing, right? Like try and do those sorts of things. I also think what you're saying is like, hey, I'm going to put you in this zone. That's super important. We'll do take a first rep, wait 8 minutes, take it again, right? Um, like just so there are these weird scenarios. I think it's like resiliency training where you're like, let's do weird things. Take your opener, and then take it again in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, like on a 2.5 minute clock or something. So just doing stuff like that gets you in that framework where it's like, okay, I'm capable of this. Totally don't agree with this idea of fake it till you make it. Like I don't think that's real. Like um confidence is earned, but you can earn it in training, right? Like so you have the receipts. We always talk about the receipts. Like let's look at training. You did this. You did the 8 minute miss. You did the I put you in the zone where you missed your opener and you gotta like I'm gonna try and make you freak out. Like describe like sweaty palms and my heart's racing and my breath kind of out of control. Like and then I stopped it and then I did it, right? So I think that like yeah, I think that you can't I think what you want to instill is that you are in control, and you are in control of like how you react to stuff, and then you're in control of it. But if you think that it's just happening to you, like that's going to be highly anxiety inducing, right? Like you can't do anything about it. So you want to instill in your athletes they have control and they can do it, and they've been in this situation before because as a coach you've helped put them in that position.
I think that's a really important consideration where it's how do we get athletes that struggle with feeling like they've ever had control or might not have been given the opportunity through childhood, whatever you want to view it as, of like I can control these outcomes.
Yeah.
How do you teach that to athletes that are in those
Yeah, I
positions?
mean, it's interesting. I have an athlete right now who came from another coach, and that other coach was super controlling, like controlled like every percentage, every attempt. every like, almost like you should feel this way if you missed, all this kind of stuff. And I'm kind of freewheeling in my programming. It's like heavy, moderate, light. What does that mean to you? And that in itself brought anxiety to the athlete, where the athlete's like, well, I don't know what that means. What do you mean? What do you want me to hit? I was like, I want you to hit what feels right today. Like, I want you to know like how your body feels and do that kind of stuff. I will give you guidance. Heavy, moderate, light all has like a percentage framework around it, but you're also free to go lighter or heavier depending on how you feel to me, right? That's all fine. And so it's like giving them more choice. One of the big psychological theories is self-determination theory. It guides a lot of things. I'm like a very big believer in that. And people want to feel relatedness. They want to feel part of the team, probably. That's why like your club that's why identity, that's a good thing. So they want to feel relatedness to their coach or to their teammates or whatever. They want to feel competence. So they want to feel like they're doing a good job. So maybe they need feedback from you to give them competence, but they also need autonomy. So people need to have at least two of those to feel good. Like if you think about people who have a job, if they feel relatedness and they're good at it, but they don't have much autonomy, people will make it through. They'll be okay. But if they feel relatedness, or if they feel like they're good, but they don't have any friends and they don't have any autonomy, that doesn't matter. Like they'll quit that job. So you usually have to have at least two of those three. But I think you want to strive to have three of those, all three. You want to have competence so that they're making decisions on their own, right? That's autonomy, but they're also like good enough at it. So you want to have, and relatedness, you want to have foster some sort of culture where they feel close to you, and or I coach people remote, so maybe my team atmosphere doesn't sometimes feel as good. We have like WhatsApp, people like each other, they get excited about meets and stuff like that, but they're communicating with me and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you got to like foster autonomy. So I let a lot of my athletes have choices, and you can make the wrong choice. Like maybe you didn't go heavy enough. Okay, right? At least you didn't go too heavy and hurt yourself. So it's like, you got to probably just allow those athletes who have been kind of had decisions made for them for so long to make some decisions. And I also realize my mistake is when you have an athlete like that, you can't let them make every decision because that's almost overwhelming to them. So what are the decisions you make? Like, hey, you could probably let them pick between two weights or something like that, as opposed to a range of weights. So that's something that I've realized that I will, if I have another athlete like this, I will allow them to just like, let's dial in on the choice. I trust you to make these choices. You have autonomy, but you don't have to make every choice.
Yeah, I coming off of my like coaching background of like who coached me, it was very, very like you're saying, where it's like everything is determined by that coach, every percentage. And I used to just, I mean, coaching pedagogy, like you develop slowly, like of all of the people that you've learned from. And so when I first started, I was very like strict on the percentages, and it was as I kept training, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like I need to be more percent ranges or these ranges, and then giving them like, okay, I remember when I first saw your program, I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like
This guy,
there's what the
there's nothing
fuck is
in
this
there.
guy doing? And I was like, what am I looking at? And I watched it. It was great, but it was just like shifting that pendulum. And I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the only way. And
Yeah.
I
No,
started
I
giving
think,
more.
man, isn't that the case when you are a coach, right? Like, um, you have to be, yeah, you absorb what you find, and you've also, it's weightlifting. Let's say that's one thing. Is like you're talking personalities and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, um, you're like, well, that person cannot function in RPE or heavy, moderate, light because they are going to run their head through a wall, right?
That was me.
Yeah, and because it says moderate, and they're at like a 10 out of 10, and they're like, I got more, coach, and you're like, no, you don't. Um, I just mixed RP and my heavy, moderate, light
That's
in the
okay.
same sense. It's just crazy. Um, but yeah, and some athletes. some athletes don't know how to push themselves. So you got to write like a percentage or something like that. So I think, yeah, you just like develop new pieces and you go, oh, you also realize, man, that worked. That didn't work, and like, um, you, there's no one way, right? That's the thing. But now, man, being at the Olympics just solidified that in such a big way. Being at international competitions solidifies that as a big way. Like, there's a Chinese method. There's 4 Chinese coaches, you right? And they all train their own group and they all train different. Like, what do you mean there's Chinese way? Which one are you talking about? Like they have their own group. They don't, the 249s last time, Huzi Wei and, Zhang Hihua train in different groups. So they train alike, maybe a little bit, but like they have different coaches and their different coaches are allowed to do different things. So like, there's no one way. And you're saying every good coach realizes that pretty quick, but you've got to start out with a way, right? You always start out with a way and then you branch off of it, right? So you can't start
Yeah.
out with every way. So
I use this framework for how I push athletes through. It's going to be similar to like a skill acquisition model, but it's going to be like this directive, calibrative, and collaborative
okay,
framework.
yeah,
Uh, so the directives, like when I get a first new athlete, it's very like I'm going to tell you all the things that you need to know when they're brand new because they just need that framework to
yes,
understand what they're
yep,
talking about. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how I need you to do it. This is whatever. And they go through that stage, and then they go to this calibrative stage where it's like, I need you to tell me what you think is happening or what you think is going on, especially for athletes that have no autonomy in their previous experience. Where it's like, I need you to start telling me what you're feeling, and I'm gonna calibrate that for you and be like, no, this is what's happening, not that. Like they're like, oh, I think I'm getting off balance into my heels. It's like, well, actually, you're already on your toes at that
yeah,
position, so I don't know how you feel like you're in your
yeah, yeah,
heels or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then we go to this collaborative stage where it's like, okay, I feel best when I do this. And this is kind of like the late stage. And it's like, okay, I trust your feeling because I know you've had this weightlifter IQ or this experience. And now we use that into kind of our training, and my athletes ebb and flow between those stages where it's like if they're super stressed out and they're not able to kind of have the availability to make those decisions, I'll bring them back to that directive where I'm like, no, just do this.
do
Like,
this,
okay.
yeah, yeah,
And
that's
then
great.
if an athlete is used to certain area, it's like you can shift them in one direction or the other, but always trying to move them towards that collaborative experience where it's like they have autonomy of like, no, Jordan, like when I do the dip like this, I feel so much worse. So if I keep trying to hammer like, oh, we
Yeah,
need to
you need
stay
to do that.
back
Yeah,
in the heels, and
yeah.
it's like making them
I don't like that.
so
Yeah, yeah,
self-conscious or whatever that kind of looks like, and now they're not confident in their lifts and their lifts are going to go down
yeah,
versus being able to
yeah. That's
shift
super
back.
smart. I love that idea. I like that 3-stage model. That's cool.
Yeah, and I do that for programming too, where it's like you get these exercises, or this is the exercise that you get to like, what do you think? And it's early on where I'm starting to be like, what do you think you need? And I probably won't use it in the first 6 months, where like their information doesn't actually matter, but I want them to start feeling like they have a say and they have
Yeah,
this ability to give feedback and give this constructive feedback of how they're feeling. And then as they go further, it's like, I feel like I need this. And it's like, okay, I
I
agree.
agree. Yeah,
That
that's
sounds
a
right.
good call.
Because the more advanced the athlete is, it's like, I need them to feel confident
Yeah, I mean,
that this is going to
yeah,
work.
you know, people. Somebody asked me this about programming, um, and somebody sent me a message like, "Why are you having Mary do jerks? She's good at them already." Well, it's like, well, you don't just do what you're bad at, right? Like, I also need to put what they're good at in there so that they have success throughout the week. Like, of course, like I would about 6 weeks out from any big meet, you're gonna start seeing Mary do heavy jerks off the block. Does she need to? Nope. But is it like one, a really good physical stimulus? Yes. And two, she feels really confident in herself when she does like 175, 180, 185 off the blocks and the jerk, yeah, she feels great. And like we can track that versus other ones. So it's like people get this idea that new athletes only want to do what they're good at. They're kind of like, well, I like blocks above the knee. I don't like blocks below the knee. Well, yeah, you're terrible at transitioning around your knee. So I would dislike them as well. You need to do them. But then at some point, you also, that when you're collaborative with your athletes, you find out what makes them feel good, what makes them feel confident, what makes them feel like physically ready. For Mary, it's like jerks from the block, like where we can just drive this big weight. It's not super physically impactful, like doesn't make her feel crummy. Whereas like really heavy cleans can make you feel pretty fatigued. So yeah, I love that. You got to mix the good and the bad, and you got to like take input and reject it. Sometimes we don't do it 16 weeks out, but we do it 6 weeks out. Yeah.
Going back to kind of that toolkit we were talking about, how do you work through athletes' self-talk or like this self-regard or how they talk to themselves?
Yeah, I mean, you got to recognize it as a coach, like spot it and stop it. Like I'm trying to think of any examples recently, but I was coaching kids baseball last night. A kid missed a pop fly, and I was like, I said, "Hey man, you're gonna be fine." He goes, "I'm the worst," and I was like, "Stop, no, right? Like,
You're 8.
yeah, you're 8. Yeah, one, you're 8, but like, let's say that happens. Let's say a kid misses a lift, and they're like, I'm the this or I'm the whatever, I'm something. That's an identity statement. That's not true, right? Like you miss a lift, you're not the worst, you're not bad, you don't suck, but it's also okay to acknowledge I did it wrong that time. Like like um like self-talk shouldn't be an identity. It can be a reflection of what just happened, right? Like I just said, you make an error, acknowledge it and don't pretend it didn't happen. But it's not your identity. You miss a lift. It's not I suck. It's I'm okay with you saying, well, that lift sucked. Like that lift sucked because, right. That's fine. But you want to stop it. You got to stop negative self talk right when you hear it because it's just a habit. It's just a habit. Like that you grow up with. Boys in particular, I feel like um, have a tendency to want to talk like that based on playing sports, and there's like in development, boys have this like blame and shame spiral where they'll blame themselves for something. Oh, I'm the worst. You hear like every little kid says, I'm the worst. You hate me, whatever, like that kind of stuff. Um, but and then boys like keep that. Girls from external pressures I feel like they tend to think that they're less or something like that. So it's just natural. And so everybody's going to do it. So what I'm saying on that thing is everybody has this negative self-talk thing in their body. So you just think you when you see it, hear it, whatever, you stop it. You say, hey, I can't let you talk like that to yourself, right? What would you say? And one of the easiest exercises is like, hey, what if let's say, me and you are on a team and I say, I suck. I'm the worst. And I would say, hey, would you say that to Jordan if he missed? Would you say, Jordan, you suck. You're the worst, right? No, you'd never, ever say that to your teammate. And if you did, you would not be on the team. You know what I mean? It's like, you never talk to your teammate like that. So like first, you got to be a teammate to yourself. What would you say to your teammate? Hey, that was one lift. And everybody's equipped with that. They're all equipped with good teammate talk. Hey, Jordan, that was just one lift. I think you can do it next time. That's what you'd say, right? You would not be like, Jordan, you suck. Get out of, you're the worst. You should quit. Like all that kind of stuff. So number one is like stop it, spot it. And then the easiest exercise is like, how would you talk to your teammate? And then, okay, say that same thing to yourself. That's like super simple one. And everybody gets that.
I remember I have this conversation a lot with my athletes of, but that negative self talk brought me success in whatever. And when I was talking to Hugh off, I don't think it was on camera, but he was talking about like uh, there's performance benefits to anything where it's like they might have gotten you success in something else, but does it like it might have gotten you. So one of the conversations I've had with my athletes very recently was the perfectionism brought you success in school. 100%. It got you so successful. It got you a great career. It got you all of this stuff. Fantastic. But is it serving you in weightlifting? Is
Yeah.
that is that actually having the effect? And it's like that very negative spiral that they go through. And it's like, but it did this before. And I'll be like, yes, but it's not doing that now. And how I like to kind of frame it is like this lightning rod effect. I think
Yeah.
this came from Michael Gervais was the one that I heard it
Yeah.
from, where he was like, say say something that's not just like you suck. It's like I'm better than that, and it's something where it's like it has like that more positive
Yeah.
connotation, but it's like no, that's not good enough, and you like name it right then and there, and you're like, this isn't what who I am. This isn't what I want, or you're better than this, or you can do better, and then it snaps you back to like, what is your purpose? Like, what is your identity, or what do you want? Instead of being like, I suck, and then just like letting yourself stew
Yeah. Right.
in those
Yeah. I mean,
feelings.
totally agree with you. There's like functions to that. In sports psychology, there's adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive perfectionism, and there's big argument whether there is adaptive and anyways. But like, I totally agree with that. There's adaptive perfectionism and there's maladaptive. There's like things about perfection that are really bad and will lead you in a really bad path, but there's also things that, and it's like high identity and all that kind of stuff where you like those can be really good for you. And negative self-talk, yeah, like um, you know, I don't think if you have only negative self-talk, the people that I see who have negative self-talk are okay. Like they're a certain kind of person, right? Certain like, um, and I don't think they fully believe they suck. They say I suck to motivate themselves, but they don't stew on it and believe it, right? Like, um, whereas, you know, you want to try to make sure that like that you want to double check and make sure it's not believed that they really do, right? And I love that. It's like I can do better than that. I can do better than that. I am better than this. Like that stuff's fine. Like that shows you have control. It's not your identity. It's like saying I have an action, I have something I can do. So I think that's great.
When I was training a long time ago, I would uh, I would use those negative self talk, and I saw so much performance benefit in like a short term, like 3 months. I was so good, like I PR'd everything, and I was feeling like this big high, and it was like just shame. It was like my daddy issues or whatever it was. I was like putting that into my life and being like, let's focus on this, and I skyrocketed. And after 3 months, it was like adrenal fatigue,
Yeah,
where it
you're
was
just
just so much
eating
anger.
yourself alive. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it took me 6 months to recover from
Yeah.
that. That was definitely not worth it.
Yeah, that wasn't worth it. Yeah, yeah.
And it's so hard to like,
Everything
okay,
works for a short time, right? Like
yeah.
P90X works, like, and then
How do you, going off that, how do you teach these lessons or aim to teach these lessons to athletes instead of them having to go through it themselves? Or do you view it that they just kind of have to
you know
experience
what?
it?
Well, maybe I can make this a seamless transition. Like, I think that's why I decided I wanted to write a book about it. Like, I wanted to put it all in one place, and it's not like a full on. This is how you do everything, but I do want to make people aware of it, right? Because you know it, and if somebody's lucky enough to get coached by you, you are equipped with a lot of these pieces, right? And you can do it one by one. But I hope there's like a proactive book that like people really do keep in like a gym bag where they can say like, oh shoot, wait, what did Will say about that? Okay, and like go in there and there's a couple, there's worksheets in there, there's like assessments in there, there's all these things to give you like just a picture because people haven't really talked about it, and there are good books out there, but like this is really dialed into like weightlifting and maybe strength sports and individual sports where it's like there is you versus this inanimate object and you don't have an opponent. Your opponent can't do anything to you. There's not an ebb and flow. It's not like soccer and basketball where there's like you're going back and forth and back and forth, and there's periods where not a lot of stuff is happening. It's like it's just like there's yes or no, right? There's good or bad. It's like a black and white sport. You made it or you missed it, right? So like you, it's really confronting, So like my hope is that then this book, when it comes out pretty soon, will be like really valuable for weightlifters, and they can just help coaches. So coaches go, oh, I spot that. There's in every chapter there's like a coach's corner. Like, coaches, if you spot bad self-talk, like help. If you spot negative self-talk, help them. Here's how you help an athlete build a better pre-performance routine. Here's how you can build resilience. We talk about like building resilience in like a periodized way, not just like throw it all on somebody 16 weeks out, but like, here's how, as you lead into a meet, we're like continually like confronting and confronting and confronting. So in a meet, we're ready for challenges and we're ready for bouncing back after missed lifts. Cause I don't think that I think weightlifting mental toughness shows up after missed lifts, shows up after coming back from an injury, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you got to like kind of periodize that so you're ready for it when it comes into play.
Yeah. What are some of kind of those tools that you're using or that you found the most beneficial for athletes?
Um, you know, a lot of them are just like validated assessments, like coming at them with something just like we would do. This seems like a soft skill, but it's a really hard skill. Just like if you test on force plates initially, you can do the automatic self-talk questionnaire for sports, ASTQS, right? And there's 28 questions, and it's validated, and it'll tell you this, and like you can then retest in 6 to 8 weeks. You could do an athletic identity measurement scale and like test that now, equip them with some tools, test it in 6 to 8 weeks again. So really similar stuff. We think about these as soft skills, but there's so much scientific validation behind it, just like weightlifting, just like strength conditioning, that we can then come back and like test and retest and see. And then in the middle, worksheets and all that kind of stuff, like individually working with the athletes. Like I'm trying to think of recently just working with an athlete on like growing that identity outside of weightlifting, just talking to them, then it's just like that relationship building where you're talking to your athletes and spotting stuff. And if you don't have a background in it, hopefully I can give you guys some pieces of that pie so that you can like understand where to look. But yeah, that's kind of just, I think those are the big ones. And it is so different. There's some basic ideas like, here, you should be equipped with these skills. Here's how you build a self-talk routine. Here's how you build imagery. Here's some ways to build resilience so that you have the receipts when it comes time for competition. But then every athlete will be different, and then dialing in on the little stuff, right? Like, here's what they need to hear to get through a tough training session. Their self-talk is not as good. Just like your squat, you come in, your squat's not as good. Okay, we really need to work on your squat. You really need to work on your self-talk. Whereas you need to, you don't do any planning beforehand. We need to work on your pre-performance routine, all that kind of stuff.
It just makes me think of athletes that are very resistant to wanting to kind of work on these mental things.
Yeah.
How are you uh, getting them bought in
Yeah.
to wanting to?
I haven't had as much resistance. I can picture at times when I would, but I think it's a lot of framing. And it goes back to earlier. It's not, you don't do this because you have a problem, right? Like, you do this because you want to perform your best. You eat better. Like, you want to eat better, right? You want to like eat healthy food so you're fueled and your joints aren't inflamed and all that kind of stuff, because you want to perform better. If you don't want to do the extras, if you just want to show up and lift, you're going to be capped, right? And you're going to be capped. If you want to be the best possible performer, you got to work on all the pieces, like your recovery, your fueling, and your mental game. So it's just like framing it as just one of the pieces. We're all like going to talk about it. We're all going to think about it and utilize it on a day-to-day basis, because otherwise you're just not doing the whole picture of training. And some people just want to show up and lift. Like, and that's fine. I'm going to be honest. You're not going to compete there. I know, I was talking to somebody, they have a really, really accomplished junior lifter, right? And that person struggled going to the senior level. And the coach said, hey, they got to that spot as a junior lifter, like world teams, national championships, all this kind of stuff. All they did was show up 4 times a week. And when they were there, they worked really hard. They did a great job. And then when you cross into the next level, you got to add other stuff. They don't sleep 8 hours a night. They play video games late and they eat like crap, and they won't do the other things. And now look, they're just like not that good. They're like they're fine. They're good, but they're not what they would have been indicated by how good they were as a junior. So every level, every like step requires adding another piece, right? So that you're, have like all this well-rounded thing.
One of the conversations I had recently was similar to this junior athlete, where it's like they see success, they see really early success, and they see this like, I'm good at this, I can make progress, and then when it slows down, you have to continue to do those new things where it's like you have to do the nutrition, the sleep, or whatever that looks like. And the thing that I found resistance in, like I'm trying to work through with this athlete, is these things are really important if you want to keep going. And I know you've seen success and we've seen progress every block, regardless. And it's this in spite of or because of concept where it's like, I made you, or I don't want to say I made you progress, but like we made progress in spite of you doing so much to try and stop us to make progress.
Yeah.
Like you randomly started cutting your macros by 800 calories, or you didn't do your accessories for 3 months. And it's like, in spite of all of those things, you made progress.
Still made progress. And that is going to stop.
And they'll be like, well, it's just going to keep happening. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. Like, we'll try, but if you want these bigger numbers, like at some point you have to identifying with,
you got to do other stuff
with this stuff where it's like, you are a weightlifter, you have to do these things.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I got 2 questions.
Okay.
First one is, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made?
Gosh.
Those learning lessons. I know I'll ask you that right at the end.
Yeah. I mean, everything, like, obviously, certainly every coach should say this if they've coached for long enough. I was probably too dogmatic about certain things early on. I had an athlete recently, maybe, whereas 10 years ago, this would have been a difficult choice. It was like, they just like, weren't, like they weren't able to squat to depth. It was just bother their knees. And I was like, what, 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, what do I do? Well, it's okay. We'll just squat to a box. Like, we'll just like do what we can, like just get what we can. Whereas 10 years ago, it might have been like a big crisis. And now it's just like, okay, whatever, next step, like just move on. Just like be flexible, be really flexible. They want to work hard. This bothers their knees. We can't really figure out the root yet, but we're still working on it, that kind of thing. So, that would probably be an easy mistake to point to. I'm sure I've just made mistakes. The thing I'm not good at, I'm not good at being an external motivator. Like, if you don't want to train hard, okay, sounds good. I'll move on to somebody who does, right? Like, I am not, like, it's just not in me. Like, I'm an encourager. Like, I say that I am relentlessly, like I say I have a coaching mission statement, and my coaching mission statement is relentlessly positive and relentlessly I'm relentlessly positive and relentlessly demanding, right? Like, I'm always going to, the demanding part is like, it's never good enough. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep making progress, and I'm going to like push you. I'm going to like I'm going to encourage you. The positive side is like, I'm going to coach you in like a positive manner. I'm not going to bring you down. But the demanding side is like, hey, you can do more. Let's go. But if you don't buy in on that side, I'm probably done. Like I'm not gonna. That's just not my thing. Like I was personally very motivated to be very good at stuff. All my best athletes are personally very motivated to do that. It is super fatiguing for me to then have to try and make you do that thing. And I'm just not. I don't. If you're gonna skip out on stuff, I'll be like, hey, are you skipping out on that? You should do that. And if you keep skipping out on it, I'm just be like, all right, whatever. You are not here to do what I want. Like, so yeah, that's the thing I'm not good at. It's a mistake. I'm sure I should probably just be on people and do that kind of stuff, but it's just not my personality. So I would say that if you're not there to work hard, I'm not going to be the person to make you work hard. If you're there to work hard, I will continue to push you and we'll keep working harder. Right.
Kind of a specific question on that. Uh, have you ever, I don't want to say fired athletes, but let go or came to
Yeah.
the conclusion of being like,
Yeah.
I'm
You should find
probably
me.
not the right. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
How
Certainly.
does that conversation happen?
It's hard. I mean, I'm a big believer in extreme ownership. Like I can definitely easily. It is not hard for me to admit I am not the right coach for you, right? Like for that person. One of my lifters, uh, I don't. That's not difficult for me. I would, but I couldn't. Um, I wouldn't blame it on them. On that side, I'm not the right coach for you, right? Can we agree on that? That's a thing. So that conversation is pretty easy. And then, hey, I'll be glad to help you find another coach if you want me to help you find another coach and speak on your behalf. Um, and this person might fit your personality better. Yeah, I have done that both in person and like online, with a remote athlete. I think that's fine. I think that um, I had a very uh, influential weightlifter hire me to coach them. And it became real clear really quick that I was not going to enjoy it. And I said, hey, I'm not the right coach for you. I'm not going to I'm not going to continue coaching you. That was fine. It was you feel better. Do it. If you have an athlete, just do it. I had people in person who were just ruining the culture of my gym just based on how they're acting. It's hey, I'm not the right person for you. Right. So.
It's really hard, especially financially when you're starting up as
Oh,
a
come on.
coach to
Yeah.
be like,
That is one thing is now, okay, if you're not the right coach for 10 people, what are you doing? But if it's one person, I promise you that relieving yourself of the $200, $300 a month, but removing the mental and emotional strain on yourself, that emotional strain and mental strain, you will go find that $200 to $300. I promise. Right. But you
I've
can't
had a few
get that piece of
athletes
it.
where as soon as they kind of moved on, I was like, oh,
Well, that's what was going on. Yeah.
holy crap.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
feels so much better.
Yeah.
Where it's you just constantly stress about trying to figure something out
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
huge. So last question, what is the biggest tip you would want new coaches or coaches to know about either mental performance or coaching in general?
Um, you know, okay, how about this? But it'll be coaching, but it's mental. Is it um, have a whole toolbox and be flexible in your training. If they're listening today, they would hear two guys talking about how you got to add to it, right? Always, whether that's programming, whether that's expanding how you think about things, um, adding stuff being well equipped in sports psychology, being equipped in nutrition. Now, you don't have to do all of them, but you should. You actually probably shouldn't, right? If you're not equipped to teach nutrition, if you're not equipped to teach sports psychology, don't try. Just like I tell people, if you don't know how to teach the Olympic lifts and you're doing strength conditioning, don't do it. Maybe you should go learn some about it, or you should find a trusted resource that you can push people towards. Whether that's locally, you have friends who, or you have somebody who you really trust with nutrition or physical therapy or sports psychology. That's great. Build that network, or books to refer people to, or online resources and stuff like that. And but like you should have a big, well-rounded toolbox, and like, and then, and know where you're the expert, and know where there's experts who know better than you, right? I think like coaches make a mistake when they try to be all things to everybody, and then they become a total generalist. And like I don't think that's going to work out as well as you think. It'll make you more money, and it'll make you feel like you're the king of the kingdom, but really, like, that's not what people want. People want like people want a trusted guide who's going to walk alongside them and show them where to go and who to listen to and stuff like that. They don't need a hero, right? Too many coaches try to make themselves a hero, where like, I'm the only way to go, listen only to me, whatever. Whereas what people actually are coming to you for is you have expertise in an area, and you are a trusted guide. Like Yoda in Star Wars was like pretty awesome, but he knew he wasn't the hero. He was there to help Luke become the hero, and he told Luke where to go and what to do and all this kind of stuff and how to do it. But we know that he could have fought Darth Vader too, and he had like great lightsaber skills and stuff, but he let Luke do the whole thing. So it's like, we should be Yodas, not like, we shouldn't try to take over the story.
A little nerd alert. I like that. That was
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
No, I loved it. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. A lot of coaches do, especially. Uh, I mean, like parents. We talked about that, where it's like uh, parents wanting to take over their kids' sports life. I
Yeah.
think that was
Yeah.
off air, where it's just like you have to make sure that you're understanding that you're not the hero in this
You're not
story.
the hero. Yeah.
And the sooner that I realized that, the easier it all
Of course.
became. Where it's
Super
like
easy.
I I'm just trying to help you here, not force you
Yeah.
to do anything.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Sweet. Well, Will, this has been awesome.
Thanks, man. I
Thank you
appreciate it.
for coming on. So, where can people find you? When is the book coming out? Where can they find that?
Yeah. So, book, we're shooting for a launch end of October, 1st of November, maybe like, it'll be when we get back from the World Championships. So they have time to tend to all of it and stuff like that. But, so yeah, end of October, 1st of November, look for the book. It's called Strong Mind. And, we'll have it, online. The easiest way to find it will be like, find me on Instagram at Wil Fleming, or my 1kilo.shop website. So either one.
Sweet. Well, if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, follow both Will and myself, or share it with a teammate or coach who you think could use a little mental edge in weightlifting. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.